The morning I became 18, I made one decision that changed my entire family forever. Before anyone in the house had poured their first cup of coffee, I had moved for $1 million somewhere no one could touch, borrow, threaten me into surrendering, or quietly spend behind my back. At exactly 6:04 in the morning, the trust became active, and for the first time in my life, my future belonged completely to me. I sat alone in the dim light of my bedroom, staring at the confirmation on my laptop while my grandmother's old reading glasses rested beside me. She had left me more than money. She had left me a way out. My grandmother had spent for decades building a wholesale bakery business that supplied restaurants and grocery stores throughout the Carolinas. She woke before sunrise almost every day, worked until most people were asleep, and built something substantial from almost nothing. When she died, her will made one thing painfully clear: her fortune was mine alone. She had watched my family closely during her final years, and she understood something I was too young to understand at the time. My parents talked about family loyalty whenever they wanted something from me, but my grandmother recognized that loyalty without respect was simply another form of control. For years, everyone in my house treated my inheritance like a family account that happened to have my name attached to it. My father talked about buying my older sister Sienna a house. My mother discussed remodeling projects, vacations, and expensive purchases. Relatives joked about what they would do once I turned 18, and somehow nobody ever stopped to ask what I wanted. I heard my father discussing money on the phone late at night. I saw my mother browsing expensive houses and vehicles online. They spoke about the future as if the millions were already sitting in their checking accounts. The only missing piece was me reaching legal adulthood. My father was a successful floor manager at a car dealership, and he had a talent for making people believe whatever he wanted them to believe. 2 years before my 18th birthday, he began telling Sienna that he would purchase a home for her. She was engaged and excited, and soon she was sending him listings around Charlotte. She talked about bedrooms, kitchens, porches, and neighborhoods as though she were already the owner. My mother had her own collection of plans. She wanted a luxury vehicle, renovations, and a long vacation. Every plan depended on the same thing: my inheritance. Yet through all those conversations, not one person asked me whether I agreed. Something changed inside me during the summer before my birthday. I stopped arguing with them because arguing only gave them another opportunity to convince me that I was selfish. Instead, I started paying attention. I saved money from my part-time job at a garden center and quietly hired an estate attorney named Gloria Bennett. She was calm, professional, and completely unimpressed by the family drama I described. I showed her everything I knew, including the house listings, the conversations, and the financial plans. She listened carefully before explaining that the money already belonged to me. The real issue was protecting my ability to make decisions about my own future. Gloria helped me establish an irrevocable trust with independent oversight. We spent months preparing everything without telling my parents. Then Gloria uncovered something that made my stomach tighten. My father had already placed an earnest deposit on a two-story house with a wide front porch in northern Charlotte. He had signed an agreement that depended on financing he did not actually possess. The closing date was 3 weeks after my 18th birthday. He had deliberately planned everything around the day my inheritance became available. My mother had done something even more reckless. She had co-signed a $62,000 luxury vehicle loan while listing anticipated assets that were not hers to use. When Gloria showed me the paperwork, I saw the number connected to my inheritance written directly into my mother's financial information. That was the moment the truth became impossible to ignore. They had not simply hoped I would help them. They had already spent money in their minds. They had created obligations based on a fortune they did not own, could not access, and had never been promised. They believed that once I turned 18, guilt and family pressure would make me surrender everything. Gloria looked at me and reminded me that being loved by someone did not mean giving them ownership of your future. For the first time, I believed her. At 9 that morning, the illusion finally collapsed. I was standing in the kitchen when my father received a phone call. He had been waiting for confirmation that the money was available. His confident expression disappeared almost instantly. He asked the person on the other end to check again, then demanded to know why the funds were inaccessible. My mother walked into the room while holding her own phone and immediately noticed something was wrong. Her face lost its color. My father looked at me and tried to smile, as if nothing serious had happened. He explained that there must have been a banking mistake and told me to contact the bank immediately. I calmly told him there was no mistake. The room became completely silent. Sienna appeared in the doorway, still wearing her robe, and looked from our parents to me. My father asked what I had done. I told him I had turned 18 and taken control of my inheritance before anyone else could take control of it for me. The trust had already been activated at 6:04. The money was protected. It was not frozen. It was exactly where I had deliberately placed it. My parents had simply lost access to something they had convinced themselves belonged to them. The phone calls became frantic. My father called the closing agent about Sienna's house. My mother contacted the lender about her vehicle. Both of them began discovering the same terrible truth. Their plans were collapsing because they had never actually had the money required to complete them. My father had committed himself to a house based on an assumption. My mother had taken on a loan based on assets she had no right to claim. They had built an entire financial future on the belief that their 18-year-old daughter would automatically surrender millions of dollars. Once the calls ended, anger replaced panic. My father demanded that I reverse everything. He told me I was too young to understand what I had done. My mother accused me of destroying the family and ruining plans that had already been made. I reminded them that I had not signed their contracts. I had not purchased their house. I had not taken their loan. I had not promised them a single dollar. They had made those choices themselves. Then my father finally admitted the truth. They had expected me to sign the money over. They had assumed I would do it because I was their daughter. That confession hurt more than the shouting. I realized they had never viewed my 18th birthday as the beginning of my adulthood. They had viewed it as the day their financial rescue arrived. I told them my grandmother had left the money to me because she knew exactly how they treated me. She had watched everything. She knew I needed protection from the people who claimed they were protecting me. My father became visibly uncomfortable because he knew there was truth in what I said. I looked at him and told him they had not been waiting for their daughter to become an adult. They had been waiting for her to become useful. The next 3 days became a campaign against me. My father switched between cold silence and long speeches about responsibility. He warned that I would regret choosing money over family. My mother cried loudly in rooms where she knew I could hear her. Relatives began calling, accusing me of being selfish and cruel. Some said I was destroying the family. Others reminded me that good daughters help their parents. Then my father hinted that I might not be allowed to remain in the house if I continued refusing to cooperate. He mentioned old paperwork and things I had signed as a minor, hoping fear would make me surrender. Instead, I called Gloria. Within hours, she had reviewed everything. The trust was irrevocable, and there was no legal mechanism that allowed my parents to force me to open it. My father's house agreement was his responsibility. My mother's vehicle loan was hers. Every financial obligation they had created belonged to the person who had signed it. Gloria sent my parents a formal letter explaining that I would not assume, guarantee, reverse, or finance any of their obligations. She also directed all future communication concerning my inheritance through her office. My parents had spent years believing they could talk me into anything. Suddenly, they were dealing with an attorney. The consequences arrived quickly. My father had to tell Sienna that the house was gone. The deposit was lost, and the dream he had promised her had never been financially secure in the first place. Sienna looked at him with disbelief and asked why he had promised her something he could not afford. He had no honest answer. My mother eventually lost the luxury vehicle as well. The lender pursued the financial statements connected to the loan, and the situation became far more serious than either of them had expected. The expensive plans that had filled our kitchen conversations disappeared one by one. Eventually, both parents came to me together. My mother cried and told me they were drowning. She reminded me that I had millions while they had debts. My father reminded me that they had raised me. I listened quietly before answering. I told them I understood that they had raised me, but raising a child did not create ownership over that child's inheritance. They had never asked me what I wanted. They had made decisions with my money before I was legally able to stop them. They had treated my future like an emergency fund they could access whenever they needed it. I refused to rescue them from consequences they had created themselves. For 18 years, I had been trained to say yes whenever someone needed something. That morning, I learned how powerful no could be. I did not scream. I did not threaten them. I simply refused. That refusal ended the version of me they had depended on. My father looked at me as though he were staring at a locked door and realizing there was no key left in his pocket. For the first time, he understood that another argument would not change my decision. That autumn, I moved into a small apartment near the community college I had chosen to attend. I studied business because I wanted to understand the systems my grandmother had built and the structures Gloria had used to protect me. I lived carefully and refused to let the inheritance turn me into the person my family had expected me to become. The $4.2 million remained protected inside the trust. I did not need to spend it immediately, knowing that I alone controlled my future was worth more than anything I could have purchased. My parents never returned to the life they had imagined. My father lost money, reputation, and trust at the dealership. My mother's financial problems followed her for years. The relatives who had expected a piece of the family fortune slowly disappeared once they realized there was no family fortune waiting for them. My parents eventually moved into a smaller rental, while the dream house, luxury vehicle, vacations, and other promises became nothing more than memories of plans they had made with someone else's money. Sienna was different. After seeing the truth, she kept her distance from our parents for a while, but eventually she began reaching out to me. Our relationship grew slowly because trust takes time to rebuild, especially after realizing how much of your family's story was based on assumptions. My mother occasionally contacted Gloria's office asking whether anything had changed. The answer was always the same: nothing had changed, and nothing was going to change. For a long time, I thought protecting my inheritance was about money. Eventually, I understood that it had never really been about the $4.2 million. It was about ownership of my own choices. My grandmother had worked her entire life to build something she could pass down, and she chose me because she believed I deserved the freedom to decide what came next. On my 18th birthday, I finally accepted that gift. My family wanted my signature. My grandmother gave me something far more valuable. She gave me the right to say no.